Welcome to what is probably going to be a grainy video by the end because it's going to be really dark and it's not going to work out.
Yes, 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 yes! Oh, come on! Yes!
Okay, my name is Kieran LeCam. I decided to go for a walk today. I hope that the light doesn't get too bad. It's likely to, but it's nice to do a walk video every now and again, I guess. Being in a room all the time is a bit oppressive, and to be honest, I tried this video just a second ago in the room. I live in a room with another person, and so my roommate, literally roommate, not just like roommate in the same apartment, but roommate in the same room, walked in, and when I realized, wait, I can't do this. Like, I was talking about something personal, and I was like, I can't do this. In front of him, it's a bit weird, and also he was making noise, and yeah, whatever. So I decided to do this in the real world, out in the real world, but the sound is going to be a little worse than usual. It's going to be some, it's going to be GoPro sound, so there's going to be some ambient noise and all that, but I think it's a stereo sound, so it might be an interesting sound. Stereo. Is it stereo? I have no idea, I can't remember. Today I wanted to start off with something personal. I wanted to talk about the odds, but I want to tell it through a story of myself. To those of you who don't know, Kieran LeCam is a French name. I'm French, and in France there exists, although there are many good things, because every country has good things and every country has bad things, I think. But that's the nice way of saying it. But if you actually live in the places, you actually do figure out that there's certain things that you really don't like, and you might end up choosing a country that is different because of the things that you don't like. And so to you, there are objectively worse countries and objectively better countries. Right now, I'm trying to find myself and trying to find a country that I would enjoy being in. In France, people are afraid a lot. Fear is a common thing because thought is very common. So because people think a lot, they're afraid of acting. Acting is not a thing that is frequent in France, but thinking is very frequent. So you can have really interesting conversations with people, but it's very rare that it'll end up going somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And the reason is because of this concept of the odds. And I think that this is not just in France. There's plenty of places that are like that. But specifically, I've always wanted to be a musician. Well, not always, but I've wanted to be a musician since I was about 15 years old, and I picked up a guitar and I realized that I just liked the sound that it made, and I was like, well, I kind of want to see where this goes, and I kept going, and eventually I realized I don't like what I'm doing. I was doing a financial degree. Well, not financial, it was overall, it was finance, but it was mostly about management and specifically accounting, which is not for me. But I was like, oh, it's a prestigious diploma, I guess. It's something to do with economics. I was in the economics route in school, and people aren't concerned, I find, with finding the best option for you. They're concerned with what's going to make the most money, what's the best route in society. What does that even mean? Like, what's the best route in society? Whatever. I found myself looking to music at some point. I was like, well, I don't like this finance, management, accounting thing, so I want to try music. And I had no idea how to do that, so I sort of just stopped my studies, said I'll get a job and figure it out, but I didn't figure it out. I was very slow, it took ages, and now I am here, and I know a bit better what I want now in the music world and how to get it, but it's still very blurry in a lot of departments. But all I do know is that I want to find a place where I can feel good, and I think that naturally, from the connections that I make, options will open themselves to me that won't be job related, that won't be like either music or, you know, doing videos or any kind of thing that I do, physics or whatever. It'll be related to people and to enjoyment. And I think that this is important, especially for me, because I've had a difficult childhood, let's say it like that, a difficult Western childhood. In the Western world, I am one of the people that wasn't very lucky when I was young. And so I've been struggling with trying to find my place in life. And from this comes the notion of the odds of success for something. In France, if you say that you want to be a musician, they'll tell you, oh, mais tu sais, c'est difficile, oh là là. They'll say it's really difficult. They won't like you trying to go against the order, if you like. So they'll really try for no other reason than it makes intellectual sense, I suppose, to get you to do what they want to do. So for instance, without wanting to get too personal, my mother has been a force for fear in my life, against encouragement. And the encouragement comes once the fears are satisfied. And that is a rare thing, because there's always something to be afraid of. And so I've always had to go against everything around me. I've had to go against what my parents wanted of me. I had to go against what the society that I wanted to be into. So from my experience, from my viewpoint, I think it's really important to talk about the odds and to talk about where they come from. Not just to talk about physics, but also from the perspective of human beings trying to find themselves in a world and trying to find happiness and fulfillment. And it actually does matter a lot. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the odds. The one thing that I've discovered that makes a lot of sense is the odds. The most important thing to remember, guys, is and that's what you have to know to be happy. Everyone has a basic normal car, but as soon as I'm gonna say the really important thing, there's a car goes meow. It's a city, it's expected. What I've discovered about the odds is that odds are a consequence of observation and not a cause of observation. So, to explain this a bit, odds come from the geometry of existence, right? Something happens, and we observe it, and we catalog it, we put it in some kind of records, and then we decide what a success or failure outcome is, and then we note how many people, how many things succeeded, and how many things failed for every success outcome. So the odds of being a musician, odds of being an accountant, odds of being a plumber, I don't know, odds of being anything. If we were talking about jobs, we can just observe the number of people who are those things, and then boom, those are your odds. Easy peasy. But let's take another little case scenario. Let's say that I choose to ignore the odds. I'm just gonna go, fuck this. Fuck all these odds. And I just choose to do what I want. Now let's say that I succeed. Let's put the premise that I succeed. Instead of the odds being the premise, I'm gonna put my success, 100% success rate, as the premise. And I do that, and I succeed. Now, there's one more person to count into those odds. Now say you do it as well, and you assume you'll succeed. And it doesn't matter how many years it takes, you'll try and try and try until you succeed. I know that this doesn't always match up with the reality, okay, but let's just assume that's the premise for now. Now there's more and more musicians, and now the odds have changed. And so the odds are a consequence of your actions, and the observation after the fact of those actions, and the cataloging of those actions. So the odds are really sort of just like a trail of your choices. They are not a decider of your life. And I think this is what people don't understand about probability, especially in the math world. In the math world, everybody has a tendency to think that, right now at least, as far as I understand it, in quantum mechanics, that the odds somehow decide the fate of the universe, or decide how the universe splits into more than one universe, that the odds somehow decide stuff. But then I would ask you, okay, so you have a wave function. It gives you the probability of finding a given particle in a specific location. Let's take location. You find that particle. You do a set of experiments, and indeed you find that the probability is correct, and you're like, well, look at that. Probability is the decider of life. But also, science is about observation. So where have you seen this behavior before? You have to ask yourself, where have I ever seen odds deciding life? Not once, not ever. Nowhere. Nowhere have odds decided life, apart from when you let them decide life, because of your misunderstanding of the odds. But in reality, the odds come from a geometrical situation, and that situation is life. And so the first thought that should have occurred to people when they discovered that wave functions described reality on small scales really, really well, the first thing they should have thought is, like, I'm gonna enact it for a second. Wait, this wave function it maps the experiments, the statistical experiments exactly. Dave.
Yes, Robert.
This is incredible.
I agree with you, Robert.
Why is it incredible, you might ask? What's incredible? What's so incredible? This is the narrator. Why is it incredible?
Robert.
Dave.
Robert.
Dave.
Robert.
Dave. Do you know what this means?
I do know what this means.
Because we thought about odds beforehand. We understand what this means.
Yes, I agree. We understand what this means.
What does this
I
mean?
do not know what this means. I'm an audience member watching. I don't understand.
But I do. I do know what it means, so I'm gonna tell you.
Tell me now.
I don't know why I sound like Michael McIntyre. He's a UK comedian.
Robert.
Dave. It means that geometry is alive and well down in the subatomic. Because odds are a consequence of geometry. That should have been the first thought. So why did nobody have that thought? Why did you all go, it must mean that there are many universes. like instead of going Occam's razor, maybe geometry just repeats down in the smaller scales. Instead you went the other way, you went, maybe because we don't see all of them, it disappears into the ether multiverse. Maybe we understand nothing and we are a bubble of nothingness in a universe of nothingness. Or the subatomic is classical. And I don't know why no one has come up with this before, or this idea at the very least. What stops this idea from being possible? So in the last video that I did, I spoke about how things are made out of things, are made out of things, are made out of things. And that there's no need for an origin. If there's no need for an origin, then the thing can be defined as coming from a specific process that helps that thing exist. If this is the case, then geometry helps this happen. And one of the big things that stops us from believing this idea of geometry is alive and well at the small scales is the fact that we describe things as a probability. And we have the inability to find out exact positions of very, very small things because the things that we use to find the positions and the momenta of the things that we're trying to measure, the things that we use to find those positions, the positions of the smaller things, are about the same size. So we're basically knocking things into things, disturbing the measurement as we do it. And that's why, for some reason, people have stopped believing that geometry is possible down there, and they started believing the point-like particles are somehow fundamental. Why? This is going on for like 70 years or something. What we have observed is geometry. What has worked so far? Newton, Einstein, even if I'm not mistaken, Maxwell describes geometry. A wave is a geometrical idea. It goes from one place to another. Everything is geometry. All these respected figures can let us draw this conclusion that every single advance in physics comes from reorganizing the geometry of the situation. We define the geometry better and better, if you like. And I don't think that this path we've been on for decades of refuting geometry and somehow going more and more towards abstraction is a good path, because abstraction is a consequence, like the odds, of geometry. To put it in very simple terms, if you had the laws of physics like we currently do, but you did not have the geometry of the world, you could not create the world from those laws, because you would have to create exactly this world. So I'm not saying you could create something like the world, I'm saying you create the exact world we have. With Earth, this current moment, you cannot create it from those laws, but you can deduce the laws from our current geometry, which means that geometry is fundamental, and geometry is the real world, and the abstractions, that the laws are shortcuts, are summaries of the world that we can use to do things. And physics as we currently use it, is not what the world is. It's what the world does. And my name is Kieran LeCam, and I hope you like this video. I love doing a pause. Well, what is he gonna say next? Oh, just his name again. He got me again. Oh, you got me again. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you can. Please help me out. I'm a beginner at this. I don't even know if I'm gonna keep doing these, but I probably will because there's a lot of things I'd like to talk about. It's gonna be a one-time journey. It's not gonna be a job that I can maintain, I think. I don't want this as a job. I want to be a musician, but I don't want to. I would just want to go with the flow, you know, as well. If I can get some people thinking about all these concepts to try to make the world a better place, because it will make the world a better place if you start considering that you have the power to make the change in the world. And the way that the world was before is not the deciding factor. You decide how to make your life better. You make the choice. You have the power. And so we can change the world. I will see you in the next video.